Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Good Reader Radio Show, the New Year's edition. My name is Michael,
My
and
name is Peter.
today's show, we're going to take a look back on the e-reader and e-note industry for 2022. And it all starts with the big three, at least in the US. We're looking at, initially the Kindle, the Barnes& and Noble Nook, and Kobo.
Yep.
They've all released new models throughout the year, but there's also some major companies that got into the digital note-taking side of things, or the e-note side of things, for the first time, and that's Lenovo with the Yoga Paper.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they're going to be doing a global release called the Smart Paper. So it'll probably be well known in Europe and North America if it's being, Lenovo's a major company, so it'll probably be sold in the US. Whereas Huawei, they got into the e-note space with another product.
They did. They had the MatePad paper. And actually, before we continue, I do have a list here because it was actually pretty funny when we were talking about how the landscape changed. In 2022, I'll just rattle off a little bit of specs, nothing financial or anything. There were, at least across our desk, 101 devices that came out. Not everything could make the cut, and there was a lot of garbage. As you guys know from our YouTube channel and our Facebook page and everything, we get a lot of stuff that we don't know who this is from. We have a separate show that Michael, myself, and another employee of ours create called Unboxing E-Paper. We have a lot of things going on. It used to be, back in the day, like Mike said, Amazon, Barnes Noble, Kobo. And then for note takers, it was Onyx, Boyu, Sony. That's it. And then maybe you can say, oh, Pocketbook and Tolino. There's like 6 people. And now, I'm just going to do this real quick. Currently, in 2022, Onyx, Bigme, MeBook, MobiScribe, Fujitsu, Hanvon, Hisense, Pocketbook, Dasung, Padmu, iReader, HiRead, FaceNote, Xiaomi, Amazon, Barnes& Noble, Kobo, Tolino, KingGem, Bokin, Lenovo, Sony, Readmoo, Remarkable, Alteric Note, Wyban, Huawei, Goyu, and iFlyTech. And those are just ebook readers and e-notes. In 2022, Tencent, Croki, Lightphone, Fossil, Garmin, Skagen, Inkplate, Mudita, PineNote, Progress Tech, FreeWrite, Pomera, Gligo, M5 Paper, Paperang, and LilyGo, just to name about half of what happened this year. That is
Yeah, I
insane.
mean, there
I'm
was a
done.
lot of companies that are getting involved in e-readers and e-notes for the first time. Some are regional players in China or Taiwan or Japan and things like that,
Yeah.
and they're not too well known outside of those markets. But, because we have a global reach, we get samples from all over the world. So say
Yep.
in Germany, we review all the Toledo devices, and every year they refresh 1 or 2 different models, and it's only really relevant in German speaking countries such as like Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, and they all have German speaking audience, so that's where they pretty well market it, because you look at their bookstores and everything's pretty well in Deutschland. So it's
Yep.
not really relevant for people who speak English. But a lot of companies, and this is a trend that initially started in 2021, but it really coalesced in 2022 with Lenovo and Huawei getting into e-notes for the first time, is that yeah, I
Those are the
mean, but
biggest
they're all
ones.
English. Even a lot of the Chinese only devices that we've reviewed, even in 2019, 2020, they were all in Chinese. And it's like, well, how interesting is like an iReader to review if it's only in Chinese and it's only for a Chinese audience? But now they have
Yeah.
pretty well all their product line from 2021 and
All of them.
2022,
Yep.
they've all just issued firmware updates for it to be in English. And not even that, but Hanbon, they released like 3 or 4 new devices in 2022, which you didn't even mention. They did like the N10. Oh, okay,
I mentioned
the
Hanvon,
N10
but
Mini,
yeah. Yeah.
and then they have like now the
Yeah.
N10 Pro, and it's hitting all these different
Yeah.
price points. But Hanbon, traditional Chinese company, but now they've embraced English for the first time. So
Yeah. A lot of people have done that. It's very surprising. Hanvon and iReader were the biggest ones because we took a long time. I don't want to toot our own horn, but in our industry, we are fairly influential, and companies call Michael and they consult with him, and they're like, "What should we do? This, that, and the other thing." Companies call myself at the our other offices, and they ask us suggestions and things like that. They send us samples for English testing, make sure everything's kind of localized and doesn't sound weird. Things like ban slide, which basically doesn't make sense. It's supposed to be disable touch, things like that, for example. We work with a lot of these companies. And yeah, recently we had Hanvon and iReader both agree to send OTA over the air updates to all their devices currently and backlogged. And now, in seemingly a week, iReader went from being no one knows who they are to a full line manufacturer with everything from 6 inches all the way up to 10.3s, e-notes, pens, styluses, glow lights, physical buttons all over the place. So it's interesting that in 2022, so many companies, even the Pomera keyboard, which we've never seen in English outside of one model, is now in English. So it's leaps and bounds. This is good
Okay,
strides in the
let's
industry.
start like talking about devices that people know very well before we start talking
Yeah,
about sort of fringe devices that we are very bullish about, but the average person probably has no idea about it. So
no
let's
idea.
talk about Amazon. You know, they're the elephant in a room. They
Yeah.
have the largest market share in the world.
Me.
They're,
Yeah,
e-readers and Amazon are ubiquitous with each other. So
that's right.
if you think e-reader, generally you think of the Kindle. And in
They'll
yeah,
always be number one.
well, at least for now,
Yep.
we don't know what the
At least
future
for
holds,
now.
but that's, I did a video on that you can check out on our YouTube channel
Yeah,
about if Amazon will even be making a Kindle in 5 or 10 years. But suffice to say,
yeah,
in 2022, they released the Paperwhite 16 gig edition, the
yeah.
revised Kindle Basic, which is just the all new Kindle,
Uh-huh.
and with a 300 ppi display for the first time, and all sorts of kind
Yep.
of cool features, and the Kindle Scribe. So where do you want to start?
And if you want to be technical, they did release the Kindle Kids edition with that cool unicorn pastel cover, and they actually tacked on an extra 2-year warranty. But you know what? Let's start with the Scribe. It's the biggest, latest hotness. That's the one
Okay,
we should talk
so
about.
just to sum it up, the Kindle Scribe is Amazon's attempt at a digital note taking device, or e-note. This is a stylus driven display that could freehand draw, edit ebooks and PDF files, and annotate. And that's the big draw behind those. Sony initially pioneered this in 2015, and then everyone else started to release models. The most popular e-notes in the world are probably the Remarkable that people have heard of, lesser degree Onyx books,
Yeah.
but now Kobo did the Ellipsa, and now Amazon did the Scribe. So Amazon's late to the party, but since they're the most well-known vendor, everybody's reviewing it. I mean, if you just Google Kindle Scribe into Google, you're going to notice thousands of mainstream newspapers, well-known tech blogs that are all reviewing this, and they don't really review other products from their competitors because everyone knows Amazon. So it'll drive clicks, so that's everybody's talking about the Scribe. So Peter, what you did a number of videos on the Scribe. So what were your
Yeah.
initial impressions of it?
Yeah, it's good. We try to remain as impartial. Well, we are always impartial because I was going to say as possible, but yeah, we don't get paid for reviews or anything like that. We get samples from companies, of course, but there's never any strings. We do our journalistic duty, all that stuff. It's good. It uses Wacom. Very thrilled about that, which basically means everyone you can use any pen on the market. A lot of you guys sitting here listening to this with a Kobo Ellipsa, you're like, oh, I have to buy the Kobo pen. You're correct. But the Amazon, you can buy anything. Mitsubishi, Stadler, Lamy, Pilot, anything. So that was cool. It has little rubber stoppers at the back. Has very nice build quality, flat on the front, kind of curved around metal aluminum at the back. Nothing really else on it. No headphone jack, no, latch on case, contact pins, anything like that. So little devoid of accessories and peripheral support, keyboards, things like that. They really didn't push any of that. And then you dive in on the inside, and you're faced with a note-taking experience that is the most barren wasteland of any note-taking experience I've seen. I'm serious. That's not even exaggeration. I mean, the Fujitsu Quaderno and Sony is infamous for being one of the most bare-bone experiences. Pen, eraser, that's it. But now the Fujitsu has, 5 pens, 6 colors, highlighters, all that fun stuff. Amazon has nothing. Now, that can be changed with software easily. They overnight they can flip a switch and it can be the most robust experience ever. But out of the gates, in the current, taking it at face value, it can't do a lot. It has pen, eraser, that's it. The pen has some cool things. You can key map it to change different things. You can do sticky notes in ebooks, although funnily enough, Amazon, the largest ebook company in the world, effectively has an e-note that you can't take notes on the ebook, whereas literally every other e-note or even note-taking e-reader you can. I'm talking mainstream ones, Onyx, Boyu, iReader, everybody. You can take notes on an ebook, and you can't do that on an Amazon, which was strange. And you can take sticky notes, but everyone's like, can you view the sticky notes anywhere else? Only if you have another scribe attached to the exact same account with the exact same book you were on. Yes, but your phone, no. Your tablet, no. Your PC, no. You can't actually see the sticky notes. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, and I personally felt that only Amazon could get away with that. If any other player did as light of a job as that did, they would be absolutely called out and dragged through the internet mud. But Amazon, being as large as they are, they can get away with just a simplistic note-taking
Yeah,
release.
for me, like, yeah, it's a weak note-taking experience in general because, for one, there's no pressure sensitivity. And, we've reviewed pretty well every e-note on the market, whether it was just released in China or just released in Taiwan or just released in specific
Yeah.
markets, but also more mainstream products that ship to 30 or 40 different countries, like Onyx, Remarkable, Sony, Fujitsu. We kind of get spoiled with those, that the harder you press, the thicker the lines become. The lighter you press, the more like fine that they become. Supernote, another good example of someone that does that. But with Amazon,
Yeah.
because we've reviewed all these, there's no pressure sensitivity. You can choose the thickness or thinness of the pen, but it's much more intuitive that when you draw on a physical piece of paper with a pencil, the harder you press, the thicker it is. The lighter you press, the more you can shade and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Kindle doesn't even allow you to. It doesn't do tilt recognition, so you can't do shading. It
No,
doesn't have layers.
it does have a. I'll stop you real quick. It does have pressure sensitivity, but you wouldn't notice it. No one would notice it. I'm serious. Like, I actually pressed on the screen quite with a lot of force, and it made a line. And when you press lightly, it's a ever so
Yeah,
slightly
they
different
have
line.
literally like 10
There
degrees of
is
pressure
no, it's not
sensitivity.
worth
You
it.
know,
There you go. That's it. They're basically not taking advantage of the industry standard 4096 levels of pressure sensitivity.
yeah.
Not at all. It's like Mike said, it's like 9 or 10.
Yeah,
It's not even
so the
close.
scribe does not make sense for creative professionals that need a robust
No
note-taking
way.
experience.
There's not
Yeah,
even
I mean, the
shapes.
scribe, the way that it is a giant e-reader that has some.
I've been calling it, a lot of people, man, have been saying like it's the successor, it's the spiritual successor to the DX, in that it's a large screen. That's it, because it doesn't do note taking. I'll
Yeah,
tell
it
you
would
that
make
much.
sense if Amazon sold the scribe just by itself with no pen and actually like knocked off like 30 or $40. And it's sort of.
That's
Yeah,
a
sort
very
of
good idea.
what Remarkable does. They actually have the pens as optional purchases. So you could use it, but it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to use the Remarkable without a stylus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
could read PDFs and ebooks, and that's about it. And you have to sideload everything. Whereas with the Kindle Scribe, you have full access to the Amazon bookstore. And what really looks good on
Correct.
it is ebooks, because you have a 10-inch screen, and the
So
Paperwhite,
good.
the Oasis, they're pretty well all 7-inch
Yeah.
screens. So a 10-inch screen opens up like 3 inches plus of real estate to fit text in, and that makes it so you turn less pages. But it also makes sense for Comixology comic books, for manga,
Oh yeah.
for magazines and newspapers, for side-loaded content. And don't forget, the Scribe has Bluetooth. So in supported countries and markets, you can pair wireless headphones, and you could log into your existing Audible account and see all your Audible purchases that you made in the past. And if you don't have an Audible account, you can register for one. And in the Kindle store, you can switch between books and audiobooks. And you could, you
Yeah.
can turn your Kindle Scribe into an audiobook player, so you don't have to always have your phone nearby, or your tablet, or whatever device that you normally use to consume audiobooks. The advantage on audiobooks on a Kindle, unlike your phone that might last 24 hours, if that, is an e-reader. So it'll last you 3 to 4 weeks, even if you listen to audiobooks on it. So it's the perfect all-in-one device to bring to the cabin, or on vacation, or if you're snowed in by some polar vortex and the power's out. Your phone's not going to last that long, but your Kindle certainly will.
It will. It will. I've actually heard of people up until recently. They've kept one of those Kindle keyboards up in their cabin. And for a second, I was like, why would you put a Kindle keyboard up in your cabin? Because up until recently, you could actually use 3G anywhere in the world. You can go on Google Maps on a Kindle keyboard in Iceland, and as long as it has a full charge, you can connect to any cellular, and it works. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, that's a very good point. The Scribe should have been sold as is, not with a pen. And people say, well, you can get the premium pen and the basic. Well, yeah, but you gotta get one. And the note taking experience on a pocketbook Touch Luxe is actually more robust than the Scribe. I'm serious. Like if you go to scribble on a pocketbook with your fingertip, there's actually more pen choices and and text input. There's actually more you can do. There's more you can do on a Sony PRS 350 than the Scribe. I'm not taking anything away from the Scribe. It's just, again, only
Okay,
Amazon could do this.
so another device that Amazon released, which kind of surprised me, was their entry-level Kindle, or they call it on our website, the all-new Kindle. And they have the all-new Kindle, then they have
Yeah,
a kids edition of the all-new Kindle. Same thing with the
that's right.
Paperwhite. They have a kids edition of like the Paperwhite. They also have essential bundles of the same thing, where you get like a case and all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
But what surprised me about the entry level Kindle this year was that it had finally done a 300 ppi display. Prior to that, the cheapest Kindle that you can buy had about 167 ppi, and it's like
Yeah.
half of that basic. So it's basically half of 300. The reason why this makes a huge difference is text. It's not anti-alias, and there's no fuzziness to the text like it is on lower PPI screens. And they've also, it's an all new screen that they're basically using. So that surprised me. I could actually finally recommend the entry level Kindle to someone wanting to get an e-reader
Yeah,
for the first
same.
time.
It was the biggest thing about it is that if they didn't do the Paperwhite in 6.8 inches first, that would have been trouble. And that's actually what, looking back, hindsight, that's probably why they made the Paperwhite 6.8, so that when the Kindle Basic came out, it didn't cannibalize it, because You have 300 ppi on both, glow lights on both, touchscreens on both. I mean, what's the difference? You've already crossed past the barrier between basic and paperwhite. You're in paperwhite 4 territory already. You're catching up. So if the screen sizes were the same, it would be very dangerous and confusing to their lineup. But that's probably why they did that.
Yeah. So what were your overall impressions on that?
I thought it was great. I thought it's really good. They have the ecological benefits as well because obviously Amazon never really does anything first. They always kind of sit back and watch the industry and then pull the trigger, and more often than not, they do it better. They looked at what Kobo was doing with 85% recycled plastic in the Kobo Clara 2E, and after that, subsequently the Tolino, the Shine 4. And then Amazon did the whole 75% recycled plastic in black only, not blue. And they actually went a step further. And I think, I can't remember the number, but they had like 35% recycled components like magnesium and things like that on the inside. So that was very nice, is that they're kind of following suit. They're shifting from plastic packaging to paper packaging and paper sleeves, which is also posing a problem. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but us and you guys as consumers, the Amazon, if you're buying it locally, that's fine. It's usually packaged pretty well. If you're buying Amazons through third-party sellers, you have to be careful. There's nothing between your screen and the outside of the box. I'm not even, it's like 3 sheets of paper. I'm not even joking. They don't use cardboard in the packaging. They don't use plastics or trays in the packaging. It's literally your electronic device sitting on a sheet of wax paper up against a business card thick wall. That's it. There's no pile, there's no padding, there's no protection. So buy the Amazon stuff locally because the packaging is becoming so ecological and so minimal that the device is hardly protected. Look at our unboxings. That thing is flush. Though even the Fire tablets, man, the screen is flush up against like it's basically like a small piece of paper in between the glass screen and the outer world. It's quite crazy. Never seen such minimal packaging in my
Okay,
life.
so here are the key selling points on the all new Kindle. The lightest and most compact Kindle comes in an all new 300 ppi high resolution display that delivers 3 times more pixels than the previous generation. Adjustable front light and dark mode. It has 2 times the storage at 16 gigs, at up to 6 weeks of battery life on a single charge, and it has USB-C charging. So it also comes in 2 colors, black and an all-new color called denim. So
yeah. They actually sent us the denim one, and that was kind of cool. But it only had like 30% recycled plastic because they had to crack open a number 4 blue spool of fresh resin and spool it in there with the rest of the color. But it was interesting to see a color option that wasn't just black and white. It's nice to see denim.
yeah, no, I totally agree, and I like the denim. It looks really good, and yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer that if you have never had an e-reader before, you can't do any worse. I mean, the entry level Kindle, it's known as the 11th generation Kindle. It's pretty well the best thing that you can kind of buy for the first time, I think. So, yeah, other than that, the Kindle Paperwhite, which came out in 2021, like late 2021, they increased the storage to 16 gigs. So when they initially released it, they had an 8 gig model, but now that they have, I believe, a 16 gig model too. So for people that do download audiobooks or sideload more books, or download like a lot of autobiographies that have a lot of pictures and stuff in them. So you know what I'm talking about. Like if you read an autobiography of a person, midway through the book, they have like, 10 to 20 pages of just nice high quality pictures, but for an ebook that almost double, triples, or quadruples or more size. Like the average ebook is about 5 megs, but an autobiographical email with a lot of pictures is like 200 megs or more. So if that's the type of thing where memoirs and things is your jam, probably makes sense to get the 16 gig. So let's look what Kobo did. I believe that the only e-reader that they did in 2022 was the Kobo Claire. Yeah.
Clara 2E. I'm going to do a quick search on our YouTube because that's a good time stamping mechanism here. Clara 2E and then the Tolino subsequently after that. And dating back January, they released the power cover for the Sage. But yeah, you're right. So the only actual e-reader is the Clara 2E.
So this e-reader was when they initially announced it, they were really hyping out up like on the recyclable aspects of it. So
Yeah,
that was
yeah, 85%
yeah, like
plastic.
magnesium free and things like that. But what does that mean for like users? Because that's the most like exciting thing like about it, right?
Yeah, it just basically means that, although new plastic is cheaper than recycled plastic, it's always going to be cheaper to make brand new resin-based product than it is to recycle, use all the manpower, resources, and materials to recycle the plastic to then recast it and all that. It's just being more ecologically conscious that Earth has a finite amount of stuff. There's not an infinite amount of things on the planet. So, if billions of people are chipping away at a wall, wall's going to go away. So instead of using the wall, let's use all the crap on the ground and make stuff out of it. So yeah, that's basically what they did. They took a bunch of Bruce Willis and Nicolas Cage DVDs, and then they just melted them all down and made an e-reader out of it.
Nicolas Cage.
Come
Him
on,
and
come
Bruce
on.
Willis do make a lot of crappy movies.
That's oh man, I just saw this trailer for like Airwave or something. It's this war movie with the worst CGI, and Bruce Willis stars in it, and I'm like, that poor guy.
Yeah, they do a
Ugh.
lot of, before we would like kind of make fun of movies that were like direct to like DVD or direct to VHS, but now
Yeah,
it's like those movies aren't even available on streaming platforms. You know what I mean?
that I know, man. When you're like, oh, it's featured on Crackle, it's like,
Totally.
oh, dang.
It's like
Yeah, so it's better to have something recycled than not. I mean, you want to try not to use as much brand new plastic as possible. So that was their approach. It was a very successful approach, and to be completely honest, passively it made Tolino look great because Tolino out of Europe is utilizing the exact same shells, although made in a different country, as Rakuten Kobo shells are. So it was very beneficial to everybody.
yeah, I agree. So, it got a lot of attention like on our website. So here are the things that you need to know. It's rated IPX8, so it's waterproof. It's using an Carta a
Yeah.
1200 display, so it increases the overall performance versus like the original Clara. 300
Hmm.
PPI dual core processor, 16 gigs of storage. So you're there is a significant upgrade from the original Clara to the 2E. So if you have a Clara, you will
Yeah.
notice a huge difference in terms of overall performance with the 2E, with the new Carta upgrade. So Barnes& and Noble, they did some new stuff in 2022 as well.
Yep. They released two e-readers actually. Both of them are variations of the Glow Light 4, which was released last year, 2021, fall slash winter. But they made the 4E, which was an economical version, aka very cheap. And then they followed that up with the Pink Pearl edition, which had an all new box, all new body, all new color, all new packaging. And it was the first time Barnes& and Noble has ever used another color of the same unit to basically give you a choice of
Yeah,
color.
so the Glow Light 4 is in pearl pink, and I actually talked to the head of Barnes and Noble, who's in charge of the entire Nook department, and I asked them why they selected pink, and they told me that apparently they made a bunch of color combinations and evaluated them internally, and also sent them to all of their bigger bookstores all over the United States, and everyone sort of voted on the best color. They had like blue and dark blue and purple and pink, and sort of everybody. Pink was like the clear winner because it was just so distinctive in the market. So they went with that, and they called it a limited edition. But it's pretty hard to find, but you can still find it easily in bookstores and the shop like online. And so that's the with that one. The 4E was
Yeah.
pretty well like an entry level e-reader.
Right.
$119. You could find it in all of the Barnes and Noble bookstores, but you can also buy it online. And I really stress that that's one of the keys to Barnes and Noble's success in the US, that unlike Kobo, unlike Amazon, they have like 600 bookstores, and they're almost everybody lives within distance of a Barnes and Noble store that they can go to. And
Yeah.
so you could actually try before you buy, and if you have any problems, you can just go to the store and return it. It's small enough that you could just run to the store and drop it off and either get a refund, or if there's something damaged, you can swap it out for like a new unit. So it's not
That's right.
it's sort of very much akin to the previous generation entry level Kindle, where like you're not getting a 300 ppi display, you're not getting tremendous resolution or anything like that, but you do get both white and amber LED lights, so you get like a color temperature system and white LEDs. Text actually looks really good. Also, manga and things like that are also really good on it. Barnes and Noble makes a ton of money selling manga, so they have a ton like of it available on their website. They have things like Nook readouts, which a lot of interviews. They have like Freebie Friday, where you could get like one free book like a week that you can just download for free. Some are from well-known authors, some are from startup authors. So there's the Barnes & Noble bookstore actually works outside of the US. So the Nook works for people in Canada or Europe or Australia and other markets and things like that. So you just can't buy them locally, but you can buy them, say, through a reseller like Good e-Reader, where we sell them for the same price as Barnes & Noble sells them for, because, we have...
Well, we are we're an authorized dealer of Barnes and Noble. We work with them and dispatch the units, and they come directly from Barnes and Noble. And actually, our videos that showcase the products, unboxing, and materials is featured on Barnes and Noble's website. So as you're going through their website, it'll show up there. So whether you buy from us or buy from them, it's the exact same thing, but we can give you a little bit more of an international assistance when it comes to warranties, returns, all that
Yeah, I
crap.
mean, that was something that was new in 2022. Like um, I've really made great strides to like talk with all
That was
the
good.
key executives in the Nook department, every couple of months, just to see how things are going. And we just talk the industry and stuff. They're like, what should we do in like a future e-reader? And I kind of mentioned some of the trends that I've seen, the types of different screen texts and different types of color and things like that are on the horizon, that it's worth evaluating to see like if they eventually want to incorporate it. But we just also just like shoot the breeze and things like that. I find that ever since Barnes & Noble got sold to a private hedge fund, that management totally changed, and they're really like willing to like work with like other partners, and they're really excited to talk about the Nook. Whereas previous regimes, they all had gatekeepers where like you could never talk to the executives. You had to ask like the internal PR person questions, and then they would relay it to people, but it's no guarantee that they would ever like actually talk to people, so yeah, I just find that...
Barnes and Noble, man, they were a nightmare the
Yeah.
past decade. You know what I mean? Just look back. It was just a show, just an absolute show. But now, man, ever since the Glow Light Plus, I'll tell you, man, they have come back from the dead. I think 2019, man, we were like, you know what? Are they still one of the big three? Like they don't have anything in their lineup. They have a tablet collaboration with Lenovo. Are they here? Like we did one video in 2019. Like is Pocketbook more of a prominent presence? But no, they came back. Barnes and Noble stuck to their guns. They've made a complete 180, and they're killing
So
it.
in 2022, what did Pocketbook do?
Oh man, I don't even know offhand, dude. Pocketbook. No discredit to Pocketbook, but Pocketbook releases a lot of e-readers. They got all these sub brands. They got brands of their other brands. Like how many Lux devices? Okay, here it is. Beginning of the year, Basic Lux, which was the $99 e-reader, and that was pretty good. That had a lot of good features on it. It didn't have 300 PPI, but it did have a lot going for 99 bucks retail. The biggest thing, other than I think there's like the Touch Lux 5, which just got lost in the shuffle. The biggest thing is the Era, if you guys have heard of it. And that is such a great e-reader. That I think we voted that the best e-reader because it's the best e-book reader of the year. It was so
Yeah,
good.
I mean,
There was
so
no
the thing with
shortcoming.
the Era is that it was their first modern e-reader that had a total hardware redesign. So you put it against like
Yeah,
any of their old flagship things like the InkPad X or
not even close.
any of their higher tier e-readers. The Era was like the first of a total redesign of the Pocketbook. Like the page turn buttons are, before page turn buttons on Pocketbook e-readers would be at the bottom. Now they have
Yeah,
slim bezels on all three corners, and the side of the bezel, like where you kind of grip it, is like where the home button is and where the physical page turn buttons are. So it
yeah.
leaves the bottom nice and slim. And so, it's using a Carta 1200 display, 300 PPI. I mean, it's like IPX8, so it's like it's waterproof, dual core processor, big RAM, 64 gigs of like internal memory, USB-C, Bluetooth 5.1, text to speech, like a big battery. It's light. I mean, this is like the all-in-one e-reader. It really is.
it it was the best one. We talked about it here. We talked about it with your guys, Mike. We talked about it with the general public on YouTube and stuff like that. It having a flush, all of this without a flush screen and bezel, nice sunken screen, completely affected by any top layers of whatever was going on up top. No note taking like the Sage. They no glass screen like the Paperwhite. They just took a step back and they knew exactly what people wanted. This thing was rebuilt. The back had lengthwise lines that looked like plastic cladding. The sides were chiseled at the bottom, perfectly rounded, contrasting colors, two color choices, two storage choices as well. Just perfect. And I was a little sad it didn't get as much credit as it should have, as it deserved, because Amazon kind of buried it a little bit with the Paperwhite 516. It's like, yeah, the 16 Paperwhite was a good choice, but let's not forget what Pocketbook did. They did something just miraculous this year, and it didn't look like anything else. It wasn't just this stamped out black rubber bar like everyone else was doing. This thing looked gorgeous. And yeah, it was the best ebook reader of the year. It's so
So
good.
Pocketbook is actually doing something exciting in it's believed March or early April. They're doing the Pocketbook Viva, where it's the same shell as the Era, but they're doing like a
Yeah.
Gallery 3 display, and it's available for pre-order on our website for $5.99. So it's a little bit expensive. Just to give you guys a big, a bit of a rundown on what Gallery 3 is. It's basically e-ink's latest generation color e-paper. It does like a CMYK color scheme, whereas like the old color stuff, which is called Kaleido, it just uses RGB. It can display about 4,000 colors. Gallery 3 does 50,000 colors, although it needs a lot of work on the software optimization thing. But I think that Pocketbook may make a good attempt at this technology, is because they do Linux driven e-readers. So It's
Yeah.
easier to like optimize Linux for new screen tech than it is to do it on Android for new screen tech, because there's a lot of things with Android that need to be augmented in order to do software enhancements. But with Linux, it's a lot easier to make changes and to do local compiles and to test things like on the fly. Android takes a lot longer. It's, yeah, it does. So I'm kind of really excited to see what Pocketbook will do with it. And since we're talking about color, there's been a lot of color devices in 2022 in terms of color e-readers using
Um.
Kaleido 3 and Gallery
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. You know what? Release wise, there was only five, unfortunately. Concept wise, oh, a lot happened. We just the trade shows we went to alone. We sent our guy to E-Ink Taiwan. We went to the trade show in Tokyo. We saw the Fujitsu Quaderno 3, the Sharp. In terms of what was going on in color, yeah, there was a lot going on. But actually, release wise, Big Me held 60% of all releases of color in 2022 because the only other color was the Onyx,
A Nova
the
Air
Onyx
C. Yeah.
Nova Air C. That's it. Yeah, there was we did a top five color. We call it a top five. It was, but out of five, it was top five. So yeah, we did a top five color video, and there were only five the whole year. And you contrast that with like 17 releases in 2021, and 15 in 2020. Um, it was the biggest thing is that everyone's waiting for K3 or Kaleido 3. That was the biggest thing. And the second biggest thing, which we only realized in the fall, was Gallery. And that's what Mike just mentioned. Gallery is not the same as Kaleido. So we saw Gallery at a trade show, and we went and had a discussion, and we're like, well, we should release a Gallery device. So we talked to our partners over at Big Me. No, we're not the same company. We just collaborate with each other. And we said, well, let's work on some Gallery, guys. It might be cool. And we did, and we released a product, and it has our name attached. So it's both Big Me's device and our device. We have been working closely with Big Me, and it's a real thing. We've done several videos. I personally did a video yesterday. I came into the office at New Year's Eve and fired off a quick vid, and it was an update of everything. And going back to what Mike said, yes, I imagine it would be better to develop on Linux than Android, because one of the hurdles we've ran into with just me and the team talking to Big Me is with CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and K is black, or blue, red, yellow, and black. It's hard to make green on Android. We're finding that very difficult. So a lot of people were saying, we want green, we want green. You actually can't add green just yet. It is going to happen. And we just did a video, and the update showed green. It shows up. It's just never going to be as lush as the red, the oranges, the yellows, the blues, things like that. The green is harder to create than any other color for some reason. And that's the thing we're kind of working
Yeah.
on right now,
So
but we're getting there.
here's basically how it is. Kaleido has had 3 generations, and it's been actually in all consumer products since going to like 2018.
2019 with the iReader
Okay, so
C6. Yeah.
Kaleido started in 2019. Then we saw devices in 2020, 2021, and even companies doing, they're even using the second generation Kaleido in 2022. So there's a lot of companies.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, a lot of
iRead,
companies
yep.
have like refined the technology is refined over the last like 4 years, that there's a lot of documentation on it. There's a lot of white papers. There's a lot of SDKs and third-party tools to easily incorporate that into it. E-Ink themselves has 3 or 4 years of documentation that they can give to people. But Gallery 3 just was announced in 2022. And
Oh yeah,
a lot of people haven't had a lot of time to it's trial by fire. Like basically, it's so new that
Exactly.
E-Ink themselves have told me they don't have any white papers on it yet. So how are companies supposed to
Yeah.
adopt this technology on a non-prototype level in order to get this in consumer hands? So basically, Pocketbook and Big Me are the only two companies right now that have like dates that they're going to be releasing things by. Now we have seen
Yeah.
prototypes of Linfini showing off
Sharp.
the upcoming Fujitsu Quaderno with
Oh
is it
yeah.
Gallery 3 or Kaleido 3?
The Fujitsu Quaderno 3 is already locked in and earmarked for
Okay.
Kaleido 3, whereas Sharp is going to be
Right.
using
So
Gallery. Yeah.
I believe that the Fujitsu Quaderno with Gallery 3 will be the first e-note that uses oh, sorry, Kaleido 3. Yeah, so
Yeah,
we actually
that is
haven't.
correct. Yeah, we went to the booth. I will just be really quick. We went to the booth and we said, so Fujitsu's grabbing, and they're like, yep, Fujitsu is going to be using Gallery 3 13.3 with color, and then 10.3 with color and glow light. And I was like, boom.
Yeah, so I believe that Fujitsu will be likely the first company that uses like Kaleido 3, right? Or are the
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, that's right. I was like, wait, no, Onyx, no, no, you're right. Fujitsu is the only one that we have any official word on who's going to be using
Yeah,
Kaleido
so
3.
it's basically the reason why we haven't seen a lot of. I mean, E-Ink announced like Kaleido 3 like earlier on
A
in
while
I think like
back.
late 2021, but they could never ramp up mass production on it because of the COVID lockdowns in China. So it shut down all of E-Ink's
Yeah.
factories. So in 2021, like when COVID was at its height and China's lockdowns were at a height, it was really hard to, most of E-Ink's, all their big factories are in China itself. So they had a real challenge to produce enough color displays for companies. So they put their priority on black and white displays. So Amazon could do the new Paperwhite
Yeah.
that a lot of companies could release, like, e-readers in 2021, and that sort of went further into 2022 where there was more black and white devices than there were actually color devices
Yeah.
because they were, their factories had reopened and, lockdown restrictions in most countries have been lifted. So it's easier for the manufacturers to make like the displays and then actually get them in the trucks going to the airport, and the airports can, their flights aren't delayed anymore, so they could like, put them out to like Taiwan or wherever they're going to do the final assembling for the e-readers. So the e-readers are much like the
There you
iPhone,
go.
where it's like, Foxconn does the final assembly, but all of the internal components come from different companies, like either in China or Taiwan. So everything is like manufactured, all the little, the RAMs made by somebody, the screens are like Samsung or, other types of companies. So they have to assemble all the components and then send it to the actual factory that does all like the, assembling of the components and glue it all down and things like that. So making an e-reader is the similar thing. It's one company that buys the RAM from this company, Bluetooth chip from this company, SD or internal hard drive from another company. So, when there's like, a lot of companies that were, COVID restrictions, because a lot of it's in China, it was really hard to do all that for e-readers. So that's why we didn't really see any Kaleido 3 devices in 2021 or 2022.
No,
It's pretty
not a
well
one.
going to be 2023 once business is back to normal. So with Gallery 3, this is like the tech that we've seen products in our hands of with the Big Me Galley, which just
We have it in the office. Yeah, it floats around. We're doing testing on it, and we do color sample sheets. We do color wheels. We do the sheets with color codes. Like A
hex
plus
codes.
AA5 is
Yeah.
magenta, etc. There, yeah, we do the whole nine. We're currently developing it testing it and showcasing it live along the way with all you guys. We just did another update video, got 4,300 views. It's on there right now on Goody Reader's YouTube. You can go over to it and you see the progress we've made. We've limited ghosting. We're making it so that the black and white version is really quick and strips away 100% of the color, whereas HD is good for like it's really slow, and we feel everyone's going to be slow. Onyx is going to be slow. Pocketbook's going to be slow. Sharp's going to be slow because it's full blown color. It's not meant to move. And then normal mode is a mix of both. And we've just showed web browsing and carousels in normal mode. So we're currently, yeah, it's currently being worked on right now by people like Big Me, people like us, people like Pocketbook. We're doing
All
it
right,
as we
so
speak.
Peter's used like lots of euphemisms here, like modes and things like that. So most
Yeah,
e-notes
yeah.
have various speed modes that will increase the performance of the device while doing a little bit of degradation of image quality. So Big Me has like I
Yeah.
think 3 or 4 different modes. Some of it's
Currently
ideal
three,
for
yeah.
reading books. Some of it is to increase the performance of apps. Some of it is like ideal for color. So that's what he means by modes. And so yeah, I mean one of the advantages of we've had 2 partnerships with Big Me so far, one for a Kaleido Plus
Yeah.
eNote, and now one for a Gallery 3 eNote. One of the advantages of that, of Big Me being the only commercial product that actually has a Gallery 3 device in prototypes, because we have a relationship with them now, and we do co-brands with them with specific devices that meet like our, so Big Me is a company that like has met our expectations. They've been in business
Yeah.
for like 10 plus years. They have an extensive track record in the e-reader and e-note space. They're not just like a startup or a fly-by-night company. Like they've been in business for a long time. So this is like why we like the partnership with like, existing companies, because they actually have a track record and demonstrated sales. But what excited us about this was Gallery 3, that it was so new, that Big Me was the only company that had something in the pipeline as of like the summertime. And so we could sort of document how Gallery 3 on a software level could be improved over time. So we've done 3 or 4 videos at
Yeah.
youtube.com/goodyreader, and you could just type in Gally, Gally, and get a sense of the iterations of how software could really improve a lot of the aspects about Gallery 3, because Gallery 3 is based on advanced color e-paper, which is like about 5 or 6 years old now. It was originally 50,000 colors devoted towards digital signage. So it was meant for restaurants that had their menu on it. Something like McDonald's, how they have the LCD screens there. It was meant to be for static menus, sandwich boards, for airplane, bus
Yeah.
schedules and things like that. Things that didn't require a lot of refreshing, because advanced color e-paper, one of the things with the refresh rate is that it took 5 to 10 to 15 seconds for the image to change.
Yeah.
And so that was the challenge on how to lower the refresh rate on advanced color e-paper to apply it towards e-readers and e-notes and e-paper displays, for consumer electronics. So e-ink basically spent 4 years trying to make it work, and they finally did. So now it's up to vendors to, on a software level, to improve it. So looking forward into 2023, Big Me, Onyx Books, iFlyTech, iReader, Pocketbook, Readmoo, and Advanced, they're known as AOC. I don't know what they're short for, but they're like a Taiwanese company. I've never heard of them. So yeah, I mean, that's a lot of companies that are be doing Gallery 3 devices sometime in 2023. So looking a little bit further outside 2022, this is what's going to be. So, given that there was like about 100 devices in 2022, and
Isn't that
we've kind of
crazy?
talked about Pocketbook, Big Me, and the big
Yeah.
three. Without this show
Yeah.
turning into like a 10-hour show where we talk about every single device. Let's talk about the most notable
Yeah.
ones that excited you as a reviewer for our YouTube channel.
Man, I gotta go with the LilyGo GPS antenna. No, that was a funny one, but no, man. Yeah, out of the 101 odd devices released, we covered about 55 individual products this year. Can't go over all of them. Absolutely impossible. Excuse me. I would like to say, on a real quick note, um, are you asking me the number one or just
Yes,
some of
some of them
the like we're
mentioned
gonna
like
like
say
take
like the
turns?
Onyx Book Leaf 2.
Okay, well, I'll say a little bit of a lesser known one, but still a known one. I think one that didn't shock me but impressed me was the Xiaomi Ink Palm Plus. Literally, in the past, I don't know, 19 months, the only device to truly be a small ebook reader, other than the Hi Reader, which came out after that by Hisense, and the 10-cent WeChat phone, which doesn't count. Uh, Xiaomi was the only guys doing it. This little palm-sized, chocolate bar-sized ebook reader
The
that
Ink
is
Palm
now in
Plus.
English. The Ink Palm Plus, yeah, and which is now in English actually, and the original Ink Palm wasn't. I thought it was really cool. They did this nice kind of like uh peach persimmon backdrop color at the rear. It had a glass screen, it's kind of silly, but it was kind of cool. The volume buttons acted as page turns. It had this nice mirror finish on the side. It had tons of character, and it didn't move mountains, but sales figures were actually a little bit impressive because those things were like everyone's like, "Oh, I'm looking for a small e-reader," since what, 2014 when the Kobo Mini went out. I thought it was
Yeah,
something really
it's like
cool that just kind
it's
of was
200
like,
bucks
wow.
too.
Yeah. It was awesome. It's by like a semi, known brand, a reputable company that makes everything from washing machines in China to headphones on Amazon. So I thought that was really cool. Personally, it wasn't my number one of the year, but like something that's a standout, basically outside of the big three, would be the Xiaomi Ink Palm Plus. That was interesting.
Yeah, so let's I'll kind of run down the top ones that I wrote for the year that we haven't
Yeah.
talked about. The Onyx Book Leaf
Yeah.
2. It's a
Oh,
relatively
that was
new product in
crazy.
the past couple months.
Yeah.
It has physical page
Yeah.
turn buttons built right into the unit. It has like a gyroscope, so you could switch the UI so it'll be on the left hand side for left-handed readers. So it basically is a G
Hmm.
sensor for that. 300 ppi display, full Google Play access.
And the most interesting thing was that it was the only device in the history of ebook readers that had released one single device in two body constructions, not color constructions, body constructions. You could buy a white sunken screen bezel or a black
For the
flush
same
screen
amount of money.
bezel for
For
the
the same
same
amount
unit.
of money.
The
Yep.
same amount of money.
So it's
Yep.
199.
And they're two, yeah, and they're two not completely different experiences, but are fairly different when you look at them side by side. It was enough for us to it was warranted enough for us to do a video. We're like, you know what? We can't say they're the same. This one's kind of blurry. This one's kind of shaded. This one's kind of bright. It was noticeably different to even the layman to look at the screens and be like, wait a minute, I have actually a choice I have to make here.
So you had mentioned this, but we haven't talked about it. And this was one
Yeah.
of the really good ones of 2022, the Hisense High Reader.
Yeah. Oh, geez, what a great unit.
So
Wow. Built out of a block of Damascus
yeah,
aluminum or
it's
what? Yes, I know that's
basically
steel,
the
but
same
yeah.
size of as a smartphone, but it's a dedicated
Yeah.
like e-reader. So it's like a 6.7-inch device, 84% screen to body ratio. It has like 36 levels of dimming, and it has like octa-core processor, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of internal storage, a huge battery. So it's basically, it looks like a phone, but it's with an e-ink like display. So you'll get like tremendous battery life. It's basically like a
Right.
phone sized e-reader that could fit in your pocket. And you can't really put the Kindle in your pocket and go out. You have to put it like in
No.
a bag or something. But with the high reader, it fits in any pocket. Like, you have a dress, it fits in it. If you jeans, it fits just like your smartphone in your pants. So yeah, that's the one
Yeah.
reason why I really liked it.
I thought that was a very good release. And you know what? So did Hisense. They just announced the Hisense High Reader Pro. Comes in this nice like velvet red box and stuff. I don't know too much about it, but they sent an email to us and they said, "Do you want a sample?" We're like, "Yesterday, please." So they're dispatching a sample to
Right.
us, which is really
Yeah,
nice. But man,
I
High
think
Reader,
it's
man, yeah,
like it has 128 gigs instead of 64. It has more RAM. It
crazy.
has like yeah, it's basically more of everything that you would really need it for.
Yeah,
And instead of a 6.7 inch screen, it has a 6.1 inch screen. So it's even more portable in your pocket. So it's thinner, lighter, and more powerful than the high readers. So if you don't need like a Kindle Paperwhite size screen, you could have a smaller screen in your pocket, so it's even like a mini e-reader. So this is the perfect type of device, like the high reader pro or the high reader in general, that you can read at a doctor's appointment, at the bus stop, on public transit, because it's relatively the same size, height like of the Kindle, but it's a smaller screen, so the width isn't as wide as like a traditional e-reader. So
yeah.
that's why it's like a candy bar design, so it's similar to a phone.
And if you guys are questioning, Hisense, Hisense makes a lot of stuff. They make like refrigerators, TVs. I think they make couches. They make a lot of stuff that they're the only player in the cell phone game with e-ink screens. They've made 12
Yeah,
phones. Other manufacturers have tried one, two, even three generations. WeChat, Tencent, one of the largest investors in video, one of the largest video game companies in the world, the largest video game company in the world, Tencent. They tried their crack at e-ink phones. Light Phone tried. Dark Moon, countless AliExpress specials. No one can touch
Onyx has been
Hisense.
trying to do it for
Everyone has
years.
come and gone. Two releases by Onyx, not
Yeah.
even close. And massive corporations like Docomo making simplistic, like credit card sized phones can't do it. Hisense has the market monopolized, oligopolized, cornered, whatever you want to call it. They're kings of it, and they're making some good stuff. And Hisense refresh is ridiculous. A lot of it has to do with the smaller screen. It's easier to refresh, but holy moly, great products by Hisense. Yeah, good
Yeah,
pick, High Reader.
so High Reader is pretty well like the Xiaomi Ink Palm Plus. They're mostly
Yeah.
available in China, but you can get them through our Goody Reader store, or I don't even know if you can buy them through anywhere else. So it's like, you know,
I don't think so, man.
the High
No.
Reader's like $3.99, so it's like pretty cheap in terms of like of bang for your buck. I mean, it'll last you like five to
Yeah.
10 years on it. I mean, it's a gateway device, so you can install whatever ebook store that you want on it.
Yep.
It doesn't have Google Play. It's the one con against this and the Xiaomi and Palm. A lot of the made in China devices, they don't really have access to the Google Play Store because of just Google
Correct.
blacklisting China from being able to like use it. So it's the big like thing there. But you could siloed in alternative app stores like the Amazon App Store, Samsung Galaxy App Store, and then you could just download apps, but more importantly, keep them up to date. And that's we know when you
That's
siload
right.
apps, it's fine to siloed them for a one and done, but apps require updates, and sometimes after a few update cycles, you can't even use the app anymore unless you update it. Then you have to download from the internet, re-siload it on your phone. It's just like it's a whole rigmarole, right? That's why like with Onyx
It is.
devices in general, they've released a lot of e-notes in 2022. Color devices, so they've refreshed almost their entire product line in 2022. Like the Note, yeah, it's just they released like 4 or 5 new devices, and they have another new device
Yeah.
plan, like the Tab X, which is like a modern. If you we reviewed the Tab Ultra in 2022. It's like their first e-paper tablet, and it's just as fast as a normal tablet, but with an e-paper display. So they did a 10-inch version of that, but they're actually doing a 13-inch version of that with their new rapid
Mental.
technology. So there's
Yeah.
there's a lot 10-inch, 7.8, and 6-inch e-notes on the market, digital note-taking devices, but there's very few 13.3s on the market. There's, what, I can count them on one finger, like, one hand. How many are available. It's like
No, no, you're right. You can count them on
yeah.
one finger. I mean, dude, the X6 was the only one released by Big for 13.3s. Big Me released the only 13.3 of the
Yep,
entire
totally.
year. Dasung kinda did, but it was a across the board failure, absolute failure. They were using 2015 technology with they changed the backing from the second gen, but they didn't let you use the second gen pen. They're using the first gen Sony from
Yeah, they're
2013,
basically
14,
white
15.
labeling like
It was
one of the
terrible.
first Sony digital papers from like 2015, and they're
Yeah,
repackaging it as like a latest generation device. And they were really mad at us about
it was
like the review that we
awful.
did, because like I was just like, this is the worst e-reader. This is almost
It's
like the
so
worst
bad.
e-note ever released. And we're, even though we get these devices for free that the vendors send us. I mean, we're if we think it sucks, like, I'm gonna say it sucks in a title, so people could.
I messaged them on WeChat, and I messaged the heads of Dasung, and they're like, don't you think that was what do you think of the device? And I was like, I asked you guys about it. It's awful. It was absolutely. What are you doing releasing something like that? Like Dasung is a fantastic company with a ton of good products, and I'll throw you an olive branch and say the not e-reader line was a risk, but it paid off. But this whole thing about using a 8-year-old shell with no software enhancement, you turn it on, it's just a blank screen, 90% blank with a row of apps up top. What are you doing? That's not your that was wrong. Sorry, but it was.
So we mentioned the stuff that we liked. We talked
Yeah.
about products that people would know of, as well as new products
Yeah.
that they might not know of. What's the stuff that you hated in 2022? Like, aside from like the Dasung 13.3, what
Yeah.
stuff sucked?
I wouldn't say I
I mean,
hated
hate's a strong
anything,
word.
but
So what
what
sucked?
I know. What sucked was this Alteric note that was really cool on paper, and it was a 13.3 Gen 2. You could use a Wacom pen. It was really cool. We went to see them on the trade show. They said we couldn't film anything. They made a big stink, and they complained after the fact. We found out that it's not sold to consumers, private, public, or
So
companies.
who is it
So I was
for?
like, so it just yeah, I said that. So it's just here, and can we film it? Oh, and I'm like, okay, so why are you here, and why is it what it is? And no one could have an answer. So I'm like, all right. So that I would say sucked. It was a dumb concept and a complete waste of time and money for the industry. I would say that was the biggest thing that sucked. And I have one more that sucks, but is kind of funny, and we even joke about it with the CEO of the company. Why Ben? That why Ben thing that uses an MS DOS operating system on an e-reader is a 4-inch piece of garbage, and you click a button and like dogs start barking down the block. It's so loud. what a joke of an e-reader, but so much of a joke that it's like The Room, that movie The Room. It's so bad that it ends up kind of being good. And they followed it up with a pretty decent 6-inch release with physical buttons. So it was kind of funny, but yeah, I would say those two definitely sucked
I
out of the
thought that
year.
the Pocketbook Basic Lux 3 sucked.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
can see that.
it doesn't have
Yeah.
it
I mean, the price
it
point
doesn't
was
have a
good, but it
touch
sucked.
screen or note taking. It
Yeah,
basically has a
true.
D-pad and
That's
manual
true.
page turn buttons. So it's like in 20
Anytime you have to say
yeah, I mean for
D-pad, yeah.
2022 for an e-reader not to have a touch screen, it's ridiculous. And like
That's
how
true.
much was it
That's
even
very true.
sold for? Yeah, I
99
mean
bucks. Yeah,
that's about as much
that did
money as you
suck.
pay
You're
for
right.
a Kindle Basic, which has the Amazon ecosystem, 300 PPI to
Yeah.
screen. But yeah, that I didn't like that device. And I mean,
Yeah, that's
I'm
a
a fan
very
of
good point.
Pocketbook as a company. Like they do some cool stuff. I mean, they take risks, and I like companies that take risks. And like
Oh, dude, every company sucks. You gotta have a suck. Look at Kobo. We love Kobo. You talk to the CEO on your phone, but the Nia
yeah.
objectively sucked. What do you want to say? Oh, okay, sorry, it's good. It's the best thing ever. No, it was awful.
Yeah, it was reprehensible. It was
Yeah,
like probably the worst modern e-reader that like they had ever made. And like
pretty bad.
a lot of
Pretty
these
bad, man.
devices were introduced in 2021, but they didn't start shipping until 2022. The Reading
That's correct.
Stone
Yeah.
R1 and what was the other one? The other DS
Oh,
slurry.
the the freaking Top Joy, man. The We Wood
Yeah,
thieves.
so this company ran crowdfunding campaigns on Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Bandcamp, and like multiple other ones. I think for each one raised like
Oh yeah.
about $5 to $7 million, and
Collectively, yeah, they raised about 6 million across all three releases across
yeah,
all
so Top
platforms.
Jar
Yeah.
and Reading Stone are basically like the same company. And they just have
Yeah.
like different brands for it, which is like why the user interface and like all the software is the same for both devices. So yeah, I
Yep.
mean collectively they've raised millions and millions, but they haven't actually started shipping
They
anything
have.
for about a full year after their crowdfunding campaigns, and people are starting to get them now, and their reviews are scathing. It's like it's slow, it's all washed out, and it's like
Garbage.
DS Slurry is basically an alternative to e-ink e-paper. It's all new,
Yeah.
like um e-paper technology, and it was only really announced like in 2020, and then it captured our attention in early 2021 when there was like a single story
Yeah.
about it, and then I ended up like tracking down the company and like talking to like their CEOs. They sent me like a white paper on what the technology was all about, but it was basically converted Chinese to English, so a lot of like
Oh
the
my God, I read that.
euphemisms and like the way that they use adjectives and like nouns and adverbs, like in English that's how we talk about like the tree fell, I chopped down the tree. It describes two different
Yeah.
ways that a tree would fall down, but in Chinese they have like 6 or 7 different ways that they would describe that. And when you convert it to English, it doesn't make a
Yeah.
lot of sense. It's like a tree fell into woods, I chopped it down. It's like, but
You sent us that white paper, man. We read it and it was like the technology of DES, is that the way it is? And I
yeah,
was like,
totally.
yeah, go on. And they're like, it utilizes technology to undergo processing. And I'm like, the hell are you talking about? Like, what? You said so much and
At the same
nothing
time.
at the exact
Yeah.
same time. It went so far that we actually tracked down the guys who made the tech called Weifeng in China, and we talked to them, and we're like, so what's going on with DES? And over the years we learned about it. It's a real thing. You can buy DES anytime. It's just that nobody's using it except
That's
for
right.
WeWood Group.
Yeah.
That's the
So
only
it's like
thing. Yeah.
if you want to evaluate the tech, you can actually buy the screens. It's just like for
Sure.
Plastic Logic. You know, they have e-ink invested in them to save the company because like no one was buying their tech. I mean, you can buy evaluation Plastic Logic tech. You can't buy
For
evaluation
sure.
clear ink screens anymore because ever since they were sold to like a Chinese firm, they've been pretty well in ghost mode. They haven't like really announced anything, but
Yeah.
with and they're an alternative to e-ink, just like Plastic Logic is. So you can buy evaluation screens of like this sort of fringe tech that hasn't really caught on yet. But you could buy like not only the screens, but you can actually buy the controllers that go with the screens. So you could sideload in an
Yeah.
OS, or they'll sell you the logic board that comes with it. So you could create your own shell and create your own prototype, and connect it up to like a Raspberry Pi or like to your computer and do like compiles in different programming languages and stuff like that. So if you're interested in evaluating it to see like, could this make sense for us to release locally to market it to businesses, like, or for hospitals or for meeting room spaces
Yeah.
or something like that, some sort of like niche fringe thing. I don't know if DES or Plastic Logic or Clearing is designed for the purpose of mainstream consumer electronics. It's
I will tell you that the
no.
DES isn't. Dude, I've done testing. I have the Top Joy here. I have the Re-Ink Stone. We've gone through it all. We've done teardowns of these things. I just don't think it was ever meant to be on anything north of like price tags in a store, because it just doesn't work. You can say it works all day long, but it doesn't. Doesn't do what it says it does. Eva freaking Dentley, by the world, who's purchased and finally 10% of whom are receiving their units, have spoken. It doesn't
Yeah,
work. The
uniform,
device itself
like
is falling
uniformly,
apart.
everybody hated it. Nobody has anything nice to say about either the Top Joy or the Ringing Stone. I haven't
No.
actually seen it, and I belong to their Facebook groups. I belong to like their Reddit groups, like that they started, and this is where people bitched about investing in the crowdfunding campaigns and not having any shipping. So
Yeah.
I've written stories on it. So when I write stories, it's like I do a lot of research. So when people are like, you don't know what you're talking about, it's like, yeah, it's like
Yeah, you
I
do.
either
Yeah,
talk to
you
the
do.
executives working at the company and I get
Yeah.
inferences like from them where they're like, yeah, I can't publicly like talk about them, so I'll ask it in a roundabout way and find out where they're leaning that way, and then I'll like go to their
Right.
Reddit groups or I'll go to their Facebook pages and see what like users are actually saying about like the products or the screen tech and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, so this is we've kind of given you an overview of the biggest movers and shakers of 2022 to give you our perspective on the things that we liked, the things that we didn't like. Obviously, we can't talk about every single new device that's come to the market because it'll
Impossible.
take too long and nobody really cares. I mean, you could see all the
Yeah.
things that really interested us are the things that we do reviews on the website. So if you go to like goodyreader.com, if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or TuneIn Radio or through many of your other podcast providers, you can go to goodyreader.com, and on like the main navigation bar, it'll say reviews. If you kind of click on that, it kind of runs down the stuff that excited us that we've reviewed ourselves, like our editorial team. So we do almost all of the reviews on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/goodyreaders.
Yeah.
So for the things that don't have written reviews, we actually have either all-in-one unboxing and reviews like in one video, or we have unboxings and dedicated review videos there. So you can kind of either write about the stuff that I think that's the most compelling things on the market on our website, but our YouTube channel really covers every single new device that we get. And there's, in 2022, there was like about 100 and we reviewed about 80 of them. Just because like some of them were like
Yeah.
Taiwanese only, like Moo Inc. won't give us any free samples, and we're not going to buy it because the video might make like $5 at the most. You know what I mean? And like,
And we don't buy samples anymore. That's just we get too much stuff that we can't overlap that with buying samples. We haven't bought samples since
yeah,
2019. We can't do it because we get we we get a package a day of at least something. Here, have these new cases, have this new book scanner, have this new camping generator, and we're like, what are you guys saying? Have this new solar panel, have these like 5 Lapao Odake monitors, and we're just like, all right, we'll just throw it in the pile and let's do we do like monthly giveaways to like charity. We send stuff to schools. We do constant contests. We even double down on our contests, and we've made a whole segment out of it. We're poking fun at the junk we get. Santec sent us something. I hadn't even heard of those guys. It's like a door card for like when you're having meetings. We just did an episode of Unboxing ePaper. We got way too much stuff to buy samples.
yeah. I
There's
mean,
no way.
I can count probably on two hands the number of devices that came out in 2022, but the companies refused to send us devices.
Yeah.
Bokeen, they don't. I mean, they're basically in 2022. So one of the reasons why I guess Bokeen hasn't sent us any devices for the last couple of years is the company is going bankrupt, and yeah, so it's like they bought too many devices from their various manufacturers, and they are sitting on a ton of inventory that they can't sell or even sell at discounts. And so they're basically going bankrupt, and they don't have like enough money to operate anymore. So Bokeen might get broken up completely, or part of the company might go to creditors, and the creditors might keep it afloat. But generally, I think that they just want to get their money back any way that they can and liquidate almost like everything that the Bokeen has, from desks in their office to chairs to selling their e-readers at like an 80% like loss. So yeah, a sad story with them, but it makes sense because like they're a fringe player that only sold their devices in France, and to sell in France was pretty cheap shipping. If you wanted to buy any Bokini reader outside of France, they charge. It was if you bought like an 80. So for an $80 e-reader, they would charge $175 in shipping to Canada or the US or to the UK. Yep. So it's basically two times the amount of the device they would charge in shipping. So I mean. And that's online. So it's like they probably had no idea that shipping was that out of whack. And that's probably led to one of the reasons why it's like, why aren't we selling a lot of e-readers online? And it's like they couldn't even just do the bare minimum investigation to see like, okay, if I'm a user one in Spain, right next to France, how much is shipping? Wow. This is like out of whack. We should probably fix this. It's like they're just a small company that like just, it's two co-founders and probably a few freelance staff, and that's it.
But instead of doing any research on Google, they just said, let's just print 1 million units. Why not? What could go wrong?
I mean, we don't know, but we know that like the Bokeen Notilla was probably one of the things that contributed to their downfall, because up until
all the
up until then, all of their devices were like handheld e-readers, and then they released the Notia as their first e-note attempt, like the Scribe or what the Ellipsa was to Kobo, or the Remarkable was. They're I think Bokeen was like, let's do a local competitor to like the Remarkable or to all these other e-notes that are doing it, because it's like supposedly e-notes are popular, but it's. I saw the UI, I saw videos, the reviews that people have done, and it looked like garbage. So
it's funny because they had Big Me build it for them. It was like straight up. So more manufacturing money went to Big Me, which just benefited them. It is sad to see some of the players that we personally worked with. I remember meeting those guys at meetings, Bokeen, and they showed us their new units, and they up until kind of recently, a year and a half ago, they sent us a sample of
Their
one of their
Diva
last
and their
units, the
DHD,
Diva
yeah.
and the Diva
I
HD.
think I think
We
that
still
was
got them.
I
Yep,
think that
still
was
on the
like the
shelf.
last new stuff that they had released, except for the new Tia.
That's it. Had some good styling. Looked like a book, look kind of had that D shape of a book where the left side is flatly binded, and had a good idea, but they just couldn't keep up. And you know what? That's okay. At the top end of this video, we mentioned, 100 devices came out. The list is so long. I printed it in front of me in a two-column piece of paper, and it filled both columns in font like 10. There are so many that we've even had. Like I said, we do these donation boxes because we get so much crap that we can't review it. We can't even give it away on a contest. So we're just like, you know what? No one wants like the Guangzhou Shenzhen 300, and we can't even fit it in for a day of filming and get the guys to do an unboxing e-paper episode because we just can't fit it into the docket. So we just do, educational institutions. We say, hey, do you want a box of stuff? Can you guys use it? We don't throw anything away. Nothing goes to waste here. So if something interesting comes across the desk, like that color Chinese translator with like a shark on it, we do a little fun episode. But no, man, so much stuff comes across the cutting room floor that we're just like, we
Yeah,
can't
I
fit it in.
mean, so what we could really say as we wrap up this edition of the Good E-Reader Radio Show, that the e-reader and e-note industry are healthy. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's there's
very.
no decline happening. And I mean, I
Not at
think
all.
that that really speaks the volume of like how the next few years will go. That some of the smaller, more regional players might go out of business because it's really hard to compete against more entrenched competition. And like
Hmm.
Onyx releasing 3 or 4 new devices a year, Kobo doing a few, Amazon doing a few, Barnes and Noble now doing a few. So all the big players in the past maybe waited 2 or 3 years before each iteration. Some companies did a little bit more, like
Yeah.
Kobo generally did at least 1 or 2 a year, but they kind of sold 5 or 6 different devices at a time. But now what we see is like these big companies release multiples instead of singular. So there's more choice. There's more things keeping them in the news cycle now, and that's the most important thing. Is when you're doing, say, e-reader reviews in Google News or for a Google search, or God forbid you
Yeah.
use Bing or Ask Jeeves or something like that. You'll see the most recent stuff that's like coming out, whether it's a tablet that you like, a Fire tablet, or a new iPad, or if you're buying a new computer, there's things that are topical in the news cycle that you'll see and they'll be at the top. So for the e-reader industry, this is what we specialize in. And e-ink just happens to be the biggest e-paper provider in the world that's been making the technology since like, I think they've been working on it since like 92. Um,
It's
yeah,
a
I mean, it was
long
just
time.
it
A
was two
long
MIT
time.
students that like invented it like way back when, and then eventually they sold it to like e-ink, and they just sat on the tech for like 5 or 6 years trying to figure out a way to make it work. And it's we started to slowly see like the e-reader revolution, and it started off small, and every single year things got a little bit more refined. New players entered the field. Some of them stuck around for a couple of years. Some of them just slowly faded away. But what we see now is that ever since like 2019, we've really seen a resurgence in handheld consumer electronics for ebook readers and digital note-taking devices. Some
And everything in between, man. I mean, we didn't even talk about how many watches came out this year, how many, sub phones came out this year, how many note-taking tabletop pads. There's just so
yeah.
much stuff. How many test kits we've received, how many uh like color little price tag card. Look at our unboxing e-paper, look at our unboxings, look at our tech channel. We have a lot of like weird stuff on our tech channel too. Someone sent us a washing machine. uh it's the industry has not peaked. It has not slowed down. increasing exponentially. Just evidently, the amount of play. Lenovo released something. I mean, come on, that speaks about Huawei, Xiaomi, all of these guys, massive, huge companies say, "I want in on e-ink." Scribe came out with a Wacom screen.
Yeah,
Everyone wants a
so
piece. Everyone
I
wants a piece
think
of this.
that go like not looking too forward in the future, but looking in
Yeah,
2023, I really probably will say this again in 2023 that this is the year that the most e-readers and e-notes have been released. And I said the same thing in 2021. It was the case. Then more got released in 2022, even
yeah,
with the lockdowns. Now 2023, almost like COVID now, and everything is behind us, in terms of the manufacturing process. All of it's just humming along perfectly now. So we'll likely
that's right.
see 150, 200 different e-readers and e-notes that come out.
Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be crazy?
I mean,
That'd be crazy.
every company that we've heard of, as well as companies that are startups, as well as smaller regional players that will continue to release new products. So, I mean, it's going to be a huge year for 2023, not only for e-readers, but new screen tech, Kaleido 3,
Oh,
Gallery
for sure.
3. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of it's going to be the normal releases that companies do for black and white displays, but they're going to be doubling up the number of releases that they do to incorporate new color technology for those devices. So,
We didn't even talk about High Read out of Taiwan. I won't do it. I'm just saying, Google it, look it up on our YouTube. But High Read has released a color e-reader this year and was one of the only out of 100 devices, one of the only guys that released color. High Read did it. So yeah, it's just little things like that you can just dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's no end. We didn't talk about a bunch of people, but not leaving anyone out. But unfortunately, that's all the time we had. But yeah, man, it's gonna be huge. I don't disagree with you. It's gonna be the next year's just gonna be bigger, and then next year after that, and next year after that, it's just gonna get smoother and better looking. Look at the leaps and bounds in color pixel density. We've reached 10 inches with 300 ppi. We got color coming out of the left, right, and center. We got spectra that's already decreased their refresh by half and looks like real paint. It's just
yep.
insane.
So, thanks for everyone that listened to our show to the very end. And we definitely appreciate you guys sticking with us on New Year's.
Very much
And
so.
Happy New Year's to everybody. And New Year's, new yous, or hopefully at least same yous guys. So this is Michael. Everybody
And
take
this is
care.
Peter.